Hi, this is Lucy, your clarity coach, and this is Tuesday Talks at 3. Welcome to the Filling Your Cup August series. And this series is a 5-part one, and it helps you to focus on refreshing, enriching, and nurturing your mental health, because mental health is very important. Many a times we always we find ourselves concentrating on our physical health, and it is said that without mental health or mental wellness, there's no health. So basically what we want to be doing is finding a way that we can enrich, we can nurture, we can refresh our mental health. So in today's session, we'll be talking about patience and how that can be used to fill up our cups so that we can be able to nurture our mental health. Great to see you there, Margaret. So super to see you. I hope that today's session is going to get us all engaged about how mental health is important for us. And today the buzzword is patience. How to fill your cup with patience. So in our last episode, we talked about how to fill your cup with motivators, and we had 3 takeaways. The first takeaway was having SMART goals. And we talked about the acronym of SMART, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So the minute you have a goal, or you have a mission, or you have a vision, you're able to test it against this framework, I beg your pardon, so that you can see whether it is something that is worth your while. If it's just a statement by the roadside, then you may not want to give it too much attention. But the minute that you put it to the test of the SMART frame, you will begin to see so many opportunities outside of this vision that work together for the betterment of your mental health. Secondly, it was about picking your inner circle. And I'm really finicky about this. Who is in your inner circle? What is in your inner circle? So who would be the people that you choose to have in your inner circle? So who are you bringing in? And why are you bringing them into that inner circle? What are you hoping to achieve from the synergy of having all of you together? Because picking your inner circle would suggest that you are also bringing something into this game. You're going to have some skin in the game. And the others will too. You don't want to have too many people inside this inner circle of yours, so that you are able to have people there who can grow you, who can nurture you, who can help you see things from a different perspective. Basically, what you are doing is creating a situation of growth. A healthy situation that helps your mental wellness. Of course, now when we talk about people that you're bringing in, there are those that you will take out. So you've got to weed it. You've got to weed this inner circle of yours. I talk about the people in your inner circle, and then there's the what are you bringing to the inner circle. So maybe it's books that you're bringing in. What are you reading? Maybe it's skills that you're bringing in. Maybe it's talents. These are things you have to consider carefully. So I'm very finicky about that. So pick your inner circle. That means the people and the things that you're bringing. And then the third takeaway was about rewarding yourself. So rewarding yourself, and we'll talk a bit more about this in the 3rd episode, where we talk about honoring achievements, rewarding yourself. The folly here lies in waiting for that big win. And when we do that and we keep our focus on the big win, we don't appreciate the smaller wins of every day. Simple things like, I woke up today. I got out of bed today. If you are able to know of anybody who has suffered from mental illness, that their mental health is on the decline, just getting out of bed is a blessing. So you want to be able to appreciate that today you got out of bed. Maybe it's you. Maybe you are challenged with your mental health at the moment, and getting out of bed is a challenge. The fact that you did, please give yourself a pat on the back. The fact that you took a step beyond that bed, the fact that you were able to do something else outside of yourself. These are the small achievements we're talking about. We're not talking about getting healed. We're talking about this process that we are moving on and towards. So those small rewards, and we'll be touching a lot more of that when we come to honoring achievements, when it comes to refreshing, enriching, and nurturing your mental health. We'll touch a lot more on that. And then we move on to the lessons from failure, because in honoring achievements we've already covered that. Lessons from failure, and you know what I say, failure is an option. There's no two ways about that. If you're not failing in life, that means you're not doing the right thing. Nowhere are you able to get something first off time, off the bat, and get it right. Failure is that process that leads you towards success. Failure is like, if you could imagine steps towards success. You tried this, it didn't work, you used a different route, it didn't work, you came back, you shut it down, you started again. Whatever it is, you needed to fail, because failure builds muscle, and therefore don't be afraid of failure. But I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. And then there's the choice of servanthood, which is our last episode on our Filling Your Cup series this August. Well, to be intentional and conscious is the message that I'm giving you. You need to be intentional and conscious of filling that cup of yours. So what is your cup? What does it look like? What would you like inside that cup? Go forth and seek it, because this is what's going to impact your mental health in a positive way, because you have chosen to do it. And the minute that you are intentional and conscious, you will begin to see all these opportunities, like I have said. Well, in this episode of Filling Your Cup with Patience, we seek to know the value of patience on our mental health. And I'll be sharing 4 tips that I continuously use that serve me well. And I say continuously use because I am work in progress. I have my days of impatience. However, my threshold is just rising. How? Because I'm able to use tools, and I know I can recall these tools. Impatience happens when I have certain things that I have in plan, in place, in my vision, and then it doesn't happen. I get impatient. But then I'm reminded of these 3 tips and more, but because of time, I will share 3. The first one, practice of mindfulness. Now, this was something new for me, because mindfulness was not in my life, in my vocabulary, at least with the way that it means to me today. Mindfulness was something totally different. But for the sake of today's session, being mindful involves being fully present in the moment without judgment. I'll say that again. Being mindful involves being fully present in the moment without judgment. Is that you? Are you able to walk into a situation in a non-judgmental way? Well, it hit me straight in my face. In fact, it hit me over the head, more to speak, and knocked me out when I came to realize that I judged a lot. And if somebody had asked me before, I'd have said, I'm not a judgmental person. But truth be told, I attended a course that is called Positive Intelligence, and I realized in that course, as I did my exercises, that I was somebody who judged people. I was somebody who judged situations. In other words, I already decided what the outcome was going to be, and by doing so, I limited myself from experiencing the beauty of the present. So let me give you an example. Already I would judge myself if I had something new. I mean, right now we've got the space of social media that is evolving so fast. And already I was judging myself that I am analog and there's no way I can learn something new on social media. I was judging my capacity. I had already boxed myself and compartmentalized myself, and therefore not giving myself that opportunity to learn something new. I had to be mindful of myself and of the present. In fact, what I learned from there is that if I applied myself every day for just a short amount of time, and if I was able to see the wins from that day, lessons learned and successes, I was able to appreciate the present of the moment. Does that make sense? If it does make sense, please share with me an experience that you have had where you have found that in that present, You were judging. And because you were judging, you were robbing yourself of the beauty of the presence. I'll give you another example now outside of myself. I would walk into a room where there were people, or maybe an event was going on, and already I'd be judging. I would be judging about how the room was set up. I'd be judging about the level of the noise. I'd be judging about how people were dressed. I'd be judging about people's behaviors. Oh, even the speaker. I had an opinion about it all. And therefore, my attention was on that, on the judgment. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that you need to be in the present. So what is the present? You have come into this situation. What can you do to practice mindfulness? You can actually take on curiosity. Try it. Try it with yourself first so that you can engage with this feeling. You can explore it. So you're faced with something new. In my case, I judged myself and therefore I blocked myself from progress. So now what do I do when I'm faced even with the most scariest things where the voices in my head are telling me, Lucy, you cannot do this? I then approach it with curiosity. And what does that do for me? When you come to the table with curiosity, you have no answers. You have like a clean slate. You are there to learn. So there's curiosity and there's learning. That's what you're bringing to the present. And when you do that, you are able to appreciate the moment, the people, the events. You are able to appreciate what you're hearing. So it's first thing in the morning and maybe you're just thinking, oh, the sun is supposed to be shining. But then the sun is not shining and you're all about what's happening. What's the weather today? Why is the sun not shining? Hey, hello, the present is here. Look at the present, and this is you practicing mindfulness. And this may be a bit difficult because I went through that difficulty, and like I say, I am work in progress. What else can you do? Deep breathing exercises. Guess what? When you breathe, when you stop and breathe, it's like splashing cold water onto your face. When you take deep breaths and you experience all your 5 senses, it shifts you and you are able to be in the present. This is something that I learned, and for those of you who follow me know about my breathing exercises, which entail all your 5 senses. And if you do not know, reach out to me and we can do a training session on that, on how you can breathe in, experience all your 5 senses, and then exhale. Another thing that I have done is focus on my thoughts and my feelings. So every day I carve out time. In fact, at times I realize that it's already, the day is coming to an end and I haven't done it. I sit down, literally, sounds crazy, but with myself. And I have that moment of focusing on my thoughts and my feelings. I love to walk. And when I get in my 30 to 40 minutes of walk, this is when I focus on my thoughts and on my feelings. That brings me to the present. What am I experiencing here and now? So by being in the present and being cognizant of my thoughts and my feelings, I am able to fill my cup with patience. Because when I fill my cup with patience, that means I'm in a state of I am cool, calm, and collected. I don't feel hot under the collar. I am able to take on what is happening with the calmness that it deserves. You see, practicing mindfulness allows you to become more aware of your emotional reactions. Because this is what we do as human beings. Something happens, and more often than not, it's a knee-jerk reaction. Mindfulness allows you to realize that you are reacting. And it makes you realize that there's a better way. And the better way is to respond. So how about responding to situations when you're cool, calm, and collected? That means there's no impatience in that scenario, in that context, in that framework. This gives you a greater patience and understanding of whatever it is that you are embarking on. You've met those people. There's this Zen-like thing around them. It's a thing. And you wonder, how do they do it? This is what they are practicing. They are in the present. They will walk away from a situation saying, this is what I learned from that situation. And there you are thinking, but we were in the same place. How come I didn't learn that? Well, most probably it's because your focus was on the things that were not working. You were not being mindful of the present. You are thinking way beyond the present here. Now, there's so much power in the present, and it has its place. There are times when we're supposed to be thinking about the future so the present can exist. But practicing mindfulness is about being here and now. What do you have in the here and now? So being aware of who you are and how you show up is one way that you're practicing mindfulness. So be in the present. Choose, in fact, that is what I wanted to say. Choose to be in the present. Be intentional and be conscious. And this will give you greater patience as you move forward. You will begin to feel as though your heart rate was dropping and you are calmer in this situation. This continues to work for me. Yes, I have my challenging days, but I know where to go back. I actually have the coping mechanisms. And just last week, I was sharing 5 B's on coping with anxiety on my social media pages. And one of the B's was breathe. Just breathe. And so you can side chat me for that exercise of breathing, and that is being able to engage all your 5 senses as that breath is going in and then releasing. It's a great calming effect. That's the first one, practicing mindfulness. The second one is shift your perspective. Whoa. That was a tough one for me, and I have my days which are good and some days are bad when it comes to shifting perspective. You see, I'm very opinionated, and I am somebody who believes in structure. I am someone who is logical, and therefore things need to make sense for me. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you're that kind of person where when we say that these dots need to be aligned in this way, then that's how it is so that we can move on. I learned a hard lesson, especially over the pandemic period, that what I really believed in, I needed to be flexible in at the same time. So shifting my perspective just basically means that when I'm faced with frustrating situations, I need to see these situations from a different perspective. Does that make sense for you? If it doesn't, just type in here in the chat and let's get chatting. So let's talk about stress. A little bit of stress is good, and it can help us in performing our daily activities. So stress is important in our lives so that we can be able to question what we are doing, rethink what we are doing, create, be innovative, because certain things are not going in a certain way, and therefore, we can be able to create a solution for this. However, too much stress can cause mental health problems. Too much stress. If it is not managed, it can easily trip into depression. And once you are depressed, it's so much harder for you to get back to where you are right now. So you want to be able to manage your stress levels. And one way is in shifting your perspective. So learning how to cope with stress can help us feel less overwhelmed and support our mental well-being. One thing that I have done, and I continue to do, is I ask myself if the situation will matter in the long run. You've heard the proverbial saying that it's never that serious. Nowadays, this is actually in my basket of joys. Before, it was really, you had to do it in a certain way. There had to be a specific formulation, shall we call it, in a linear fashion. Certain dots had to join. Certain ducks had to be in a row. All the I's had to be I'd and all the T's had to be crossed. That is what I lived by. And I'm sure there's some of you who are out there who totally are holding on to that truth. It is a beautiful truth. However, the downside is that you get very impatient. And this impatience is shown in too much stress, which can then spiral down into depression, which is definitely not good for your mental health. So you ask yourself, does it matter in the long run? Is it something that is within my control? These questions seem to be very easy, but the answers are really hard to consider. Because more often than not, I would say, yes, it matters in the end. I am doing this for a purpose. It matters in the end, I beg your pardon. So I keep on wanting to stay on that course. Totally being blinded to the fact that there is another course that I could travel. My perfect example right now is in my world and artificial intelligence. For the longest time, I fought artificial intelligence. However, today, I am working with artificial intelligence. So I shifted my perspective. I was part of that conspiracy that artificial intelligence was going to rob my identity, was going to make my position obsolete in this world. But what AI has actually done for me, it has freed up time for me in a day. I am now spending my time on other things, not just mundane tasks. I then also realized that I've been using AI all along. It just didn't come to me written AI. But now I'm making a choice to seek out AI. I have shifted my perspective. And therefore, the impatience that I felt with myself when I was unable to do my tasks now has dwindled because I have shifted my perspective. When you adopt a broader view, it can help you realize that the present moment is just a small part of your life. Yes, and it means a lot. You need to be present to appreciate this moment. Well, if you're appreciating the moment, impatience will not lead to productive outcomes. Impatience will not lead you to productive outcomes. So shift your perspective and be in a position where you are able to bring up patience into your livelihood. Find those places where you're feeling stressed and see how you can cope. Because coping with stress will help us to feel less overwhelmed. And we do want to feel cool, calm, and collected. We want to be like that Zen person who just comes across like nothing bothers them. When actually it does. It's just they know how to cope. It's like that duck on water, really cruising on the water. But underneath, the duck's little feet are really going crazy. But all we are seeing is that Zen motion at the top. So the first one was practicing mindfulness. The second one is shifting your perspective. The third one is practicing empathy. And this one is so special for me. In fact, this I live and I breathe. These three types of empathy are right on my radar. So it's all about you putting yourself in other people's shoes and understanding their perspectives and their feelings. Remember, we've gone through feelings and practicing mindfulness. We've gone through perspectives and shifting your perspective. Now we want to be able to appreciate empathy by practicing it. In my books, we've got three types of empathy. There's the cognitive empathy, there's the emotional empathy, and there's the compassionate one. So today, I'm calling upon you to take on the compassionate empathy. And you can always Google them and see the meanings of these three empathies. They all make sense, but for the sake of today, compassionate empathy is the example that I would like to use. It is you putting yourself in other people's shoes and then being moved to do something. So it's not from the cognitive part that you are recognizing and, first sight and taking note of what's happening. You're actually moved to do something, to practice it. You see, empathy can help you respond with patience. When you are able to recognize that everybody has a struggle or struggles. Everybody has a challenge or challenges. Assumption is dangerous. I do a lot of online sessions, and I've got people at times who've paid up for a session, but then they don't show up. And repetitively, they don't show up. I practice empathy. I seek to understand what is happening. I reach out to them and I communicate. And only until somebody tells me they're not interested, I actually just give them the benefit of the doubt and I practice empathy. I believe that there must be a reason. There is a struggle. There is a challenge. And hopefully I would be able to give them the solution for that. So you can create a more positive and patient environment for yourself and those around you. And if you heard me right, I said for yourself. Are you practicing empathy with yourself? Those many voices that you hear in your head, what are they doing to you? Are they driving you crazy? Are you able to stop, sit down for a moment and have a discussion with yourself? Sounds crazy, does it? But you know what? Until you have that discussion with yourself, it will be crazy. It'll be insanity. So have a conversation so you are able to inform the narrative that goes on in your head. Remember that your brain is your best friend. It is protecting you from a downfall. Therefore, it stays in that comfort zone. It is protecting you. It is staying in the comfort zone that allows you to engage with what you know. That's your comfort zone. Your brain is doing that. But many a times we fight those voices that we hear. I encourage you, practice empathy on yourself and listen to those voices. Write them down. Just journal them so you can have a comeback. You can have a response, not a reaction. You can have a calm response to those voices. One of the calm responses are when you hear this voice saying, you're not good enough. When you have a calm response, you're able to say, I hear you. And I know you have been protecting me over time. But right now, I would love to transcend to the next stage of my life. I want to push my boundaries. I want to step out of my comfort zone. And you know what? That voice in your head will follow you because you have thanked it, you have recognized it, acknowledged it, and thanked it. And then you have put in a new narrative. It's as if you are rebooting your computer and putting in a new software. That's what you're doing to your brain. Now, it will never go back to that state. In fact, now you've given it a new state. Now it knows we can do this. Of course, tomorrow when you want to transcend, the voice does come back, but at a different state. It'll tell you you're not good enough. But now guess what? You've already applied tools, you've put in a new software, you're able to practice empathy. And you will not be impatient with yourself. You know, a prayer comes to mind. And the prayer that comes to mind is the Peace Prayer by St. Francis of Assisi. And I will just block out one part which says, O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand. Loosely translated, allow me to understand the other person who is before me. Allow me to come from that point, not from a point of wanting somebody to understand me. And it's said so well in Kiswahili. In Kiswahili we say, nielewe tafadhali. In Kiswahili we are saying, please understand me. But this prayer is saying, seek to understand somebody else. Empathize with them. And that is compassionate empathy. And this is what I'm saying today, that it is helping me to manage my patience, that I'm able to practice empathy, and I love the science of empathy. There are 3 types of empathy. There's cognitive, there's emotional, and there's compassion. And you can always side chat me and we can get that conversation going. Last but not least, my 4th tip is set realistic expectations. And you're going to say, but Lucy, we already discussed this in the motivators. Filling your cup with motivators, which was our first episode. Well, maybe this is just then as a reminder. Unrealistic expectations can lead to frustration and impatience. So if we take the lesson from our first session, which is filling your cup with motivators, whether you are a student, whether you're a C-suite executive, whether you're a hustler, whether you're an entrepreneur, name it, no matter what it is, you're a human being and you experience these things. You will feel frustrated and impatient if you do not have realistic expectations. So let's go back to SMART. Make sure that your expectations are tested against the SMART framework of specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Because if not, then you're living somebody else's life. You will realize that since I don't have any goals, any goal will do. So if you meet somebody who is strong-minded, who's opinionated, you will end up following their plan. And this happens a lot in peer pressure. Peer pressure can do this to you. There is a saying, an English saying, which says, keeping up with the Joneses. Now, keeping up with the Joneses is just about, actually loosely translated, was about keeping up with the economic times of how the Joneses lived, perceived that the Joneses were more well off than you. So you want to live like the Joneses, eat like them, drive like them, have a house like them. But you end up being frustrated and impatient with how your pace is moving very slowly. You are benchmarking your life with somebody else. So take a moment and just sit with that thought. Are you benchmarking your life with somebody else? If the answer is yes, then I can freely tell you that you are not setting realistic expectations of yourself. Secondly, you need to recognize that not everything will go as planned. Not everything will go as planned. You must have met this guy called Murphy. Maybe not. But Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law states that things will go wrong if they can go wrong. So you've got to set up in your mind that even though you have said that I'm going to walk this path, something is bound to go wrong. You're not being negative. What you're doing is preparing yourself for the bumps, the potholes, for the road blockages that are ahead of you. I am of the belief that I would rather be prepared than just go in blindly. Thank you so much, Shaban Optiven. You say this is so educating. Thank you so much. It's about setting achievable goals and giving yourself and others the time and space to reach them. There was a big story about the elephant and the dog, and I'm sure those of you who have followed me have heard this before. The elephant's gestation period and the dog's gestation period are two different periods, but it's all gestation. They are still going to give birth to life. But just because the elephant takes longer than the dog, that does not take away from the elephant at all, or from the calf of the elephant that will be born. That does not make the puppies of the dog more superior. All we are doing is honoring the process. Patience comes when you honor a process. If you were to plant a seed today, it's not going to germinate today, and it's not going to go into harvest today. Trust the process. If you have a chicken egg, it's not going to become hatched today. It takes time. It needs an environment for it to hatch. Neither will the chicken lay an egg overnight. So set realistic expectations for yourself. Embrace this process of learning and growing, understanding that progress takes time. This way, you're filling your cup with patience. And there you have it. Those are the 4 tips that I had for you today. I hope that they are sinking and things that you can use, practicing mindfulness, shifting your perspective, practicing empathy, and setting realistic expectations. Remember that building patience is a gradual process, and it may not happen overnight. In fact, correction, it will not happen overnight. Be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. And keep practicing these 4 tips consistently. And this will help you to fill your cup with patience. And if you have others, I would love to hear from you. We're coming to the end of our session now. Just drop it into my Instagram page and we'll be able to engage even further. Developing patience can significantly improve your overall well-being, relationships with others, and your mental health. And that's what we are here for. So 3 takeaways for you. Be present. Do not be judgmental. Be present to the moment. Manage your expectations, the second takeaway. Number 3, trust the process. Give it time to unfold and happen. You will realize that you will grow along this journey. Don't rush it, as we say in Kenyanese. This is not pesa pap. This does just not happen like microwave style. Give it time, because when you give it time, you have nurtured, you have refreshed, and you have enriched your mental health. Well, filling your cup with patience is crucial, as we have already seen today, for maintaining your emotional balance and resilience in challenging situations. So let us refresh, guys. Let us enrich, and let us nurture our mental wellness. Please let us do that. If it's going to be taking a walk today, do it. If it's going to be breathing in and out today, do it. The recording of this episode will be up by this evening on my YouTube channel, which is LMC Consultancy. Please hop on there and subscribe. We're trying to get those numbers up. Share this information. You have found it informative. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Light somebody else's candle. And check out our courses on my website, which is lmcconsultancy.com, for more learnings like these ones. Also, our social media platforms have great tips on personal development and mental wellness. You can find me on Facebook, on IG where you are right now. You can find me on TikTok, on LinkedIn as Lucy, your clarity coach. Next week, we will be filling our cup with achievements. Let us help build each other. Until then, be kind to yourselves. Bye-bye now.